everyone, thanks for joining. Today we're going to be doing a yin flow that's also safe for prenatal practices. So just before we get started, I wanted to encourage you to grab some props. They're not mandatory, but they will make your practice more comfortable, especially if you haven't been moving a ton. So I would recommend grabbing one block. If you don't have a block, a good replacement can be a really thick book that's about this size. Or even a really sturdy container, a Tupperware of some sort can work. Another good prop to always have for your yoga practice is a blanket. It doesn't have to be a yoga blanket. Any old blanket will do, or even a towel. Anything that you can fold and manipulate to kind of bring some cushion and bring the floor a little bit closer to you. And lastly, a bolster is always super cozy and comfy. If you don't have a bolster, you can use a floor cushion or a couch cushion, any firm pillow. And if you can find it in this shape, that will be easiest to replace, but if not, you can kind of build multiple cushions into a bolster. So those are some options. We're gonna start seated just to get grounded. So I've sat on a blanket underneath my sit bones to help sit up a little taller, a little easier with less effort. Lastly, I wanted to mention, if you do use essential oils, I think in a yin practice, it's so helpful to just smell something really nice that helps you calm down. So today I'm going to be using Peace and Calming. It's from Young Living. This is not sponsored at all. I wish it was. But that is a really good one to release some stress and just feel good from the inside out. So once you've found that seated position, anything that's comfortable will do. Simple cross-legged will work as well. Just close your eyes. And if you don't want to close your eyes, that's okay too. You can just find a focal point, somewhere to bring your attention to. We call it a drishti point in yoga. Maybe down the bridge of your nose. And just start to settle in. Feel your sit bones root down. Your shoulders soften. Allow your spine to lengthen. And just start to really arrive on your mat. Depending on how busy your week or month, day has been, it can take longer. So take all the time you need, and that goes for all of class. If you need to pause the video at any time and take more time to ground yourself or to enjoy a pose a little longer, feel free to do that. It's kind of the nice thing about these pre-recorded classes. And tune into your body here, tune into your mind. If you feel like your thoughts are really swirling around, take a moment to get really present in this moment. So notice the sounds that you can hear in your environment. And really challenging yourself to notice the sounds without having an expectation or judgment of them being good or bad. Just notice. Noticing the louder sounds first, or the closer ones, but also taking a moment to get those ears a little bit further away. See if you can notice some farther, quieter sounds. Maybe you can even hear the sound of your own breath. And then starting to use all your other senses, tuning into the temperature on your skin. If you've rested your hands on your thighs, noticing that connection, that warmth. If you need a little grounding, turning the palms down always helps. And if you're already grounded and you are ready to receive, you can turn the palms up. Noticing where the body meets the earth, feeling that connection, feeling rooted in that. Taking a nice deep breath in through your nose and noticing any smells. And if you'd like, you can open the mouth and let it go on the exhale. And do that as many times as you need. exhale, releasing anything you don't want to bring into your practice today. Just taking a few more deep breaths at your own pace here. As you're getting more grounded in this present moment, maybe the body has started to talk to you. We're going to practice really listening to our body throughout class today. So if we're in a pose that just doesn't quite feel right, you can always feel free to make your way out of it. This practice is yours, and your body will always be your best teacher. So we're going to be getting into the hips a lot today. That can bring up a lot of emotions. Another thing I want to encourage you to do is let those emotions flow through you. It's not always the most comfortable experience, but if you've done it before, you know that it's so worth it, and you will feel so much better after you let yourself release. So a release can come in the form of crying, laughing, sneezing, shaking, coughing. Those are just some. There's many ways to release. So let's take one more of those cleansing breaths deep into our bellies and out of the mouth. And if you haven't yet, you can slowly blink those eyes open. Let's get started. So when you're ready, we'll take a big inhale, reach those arms out and up. Palms will meet overhead. Exhale through the heart center. Let's do 2 more of those at your own pace. Getting nice and long through your spine, maybe looking up, and then as you exhale, grounding back into each sit bone. 1 more. Spreading the energy through those fingertips. And exhale back to heart center. We're going to pause here, and if you'd like to add on to our intention of releasing, emptying, feel free to do that. We all come to the mat for different reasons, so maybe you have something specific you're devoting your practice to. Taking a moment to seal that intention, and then we'll walk the hands out away from the body here. And just slowly begin to fold forward. So you can keep the hands pressed into the ground, that works. You can come onto your forearms, or you can even come all the way down if space allows. If you are pregnant, make sure you're keeping room for baby here. And we're just kind of cluing the hips into where we're going. You can add a little swaying motion if you'd like. I always teach a really flowy type of yin where there's going to be some gentle movement to help warm our joints and our ligaments up before we get really deep into them. Taking 1 more breath here, and then we'll slowly walk the hands back towards our body. Let's switch the foot that's in front or on top. And we'll start again. So you might need to re-ground yourself. It might be the awkward side. That's okay. It's good to practice. And then we'll take a couple seated cat-cows here. So as you inhale, allow your chest to come forward, shoulders to come back. And then as you exhale, begin to round into the spine, maybe even looking down. The hands can slide back and forward as you move your spine with your breath. Inhaling forward. Exhaling back, getting some movement into the spine, and already we're going to tune into our intuition here and see if any other movements coming to mind that you just feel called to do. So maybe that's adding some circles, maybe it's a swaying motion, just getting that energy moving in the body and tuning into what your body's really already trying to tell you here. Moving with your breath. If you are doing circles, taking a moment to do both directions or both sides. 1 more breath into this intuitive movement, and we'll come back to center. And then same thing here. Let's inhale, reach the arms out and up. Exhale through heart center. We'll just do 1 on this side. Walk those hands out in front of you. Now getting into the opposite hip. Maybe you feel it more in your lower back. That's okay too, as long as it feels good. Breathing into wherever you're feeling that pull, that tension. Continuing to use your breath to just settle into every single pose. And then we'll slowly walk the hands back to the body. We're going to be coming onto our hands and knees now. So this might be a good time to grab that blanket and put it underneath your knees. I know for me it feels a lot better. And I'm going to unfold mine to about this size. So that would be unfolded once from what we call bin size. And put that underneath your knees. And we're going to start in a child's pose. Nice and easy. Up to you if you want to add more props. And it's also up to you if you want to do an open knee variation or if you'd like to close your knees. You can also take the hands forward or you can take them back towards your feet like so for more of an embryo pose. So once you open those knees, bringing your big toes touching, allowing the hips to come all the way back as far as they'll go, and maybe you grab your bolster too. If you are going to grab your bolster, nuzzle it in nice and close. If you're pregnant, leave space for baby once again. You're going to hear me say that a lot. And just get cozy. So if you're using the bolster, turn one side of your face like so, and you can even hug onto it in a really comfy way. So in restorative yoga, we talk about this pose being really good for grief and for loss, and I think part of it is having this support underneath you to almost like snuggle onto. It's really nice. And just settle into the pose, whether you're using the bolster or not. We're going to get into a breath practice, and it's called 3-part breath. Pretty simple and straightforward, and so if you've done it before, go ahead and feel free to just begin it, and if not, I'm going to walk you through the 3 parts. So the first part is just breathing into your belly. So you want to make sure your belly is really relaxed, soft, ready to make some space for your breath. So once you feel like you've softened into the lower belly, let go of any tension, go ahead and draw your breath through your nose into your belly. Feel it expand like a balloon as you inhale. And then as you exhale, your belly button will move back towards the spine. You can even push out that air at the end of your exhale. Inhaling, filling the balloon. Exhaling, releasing from the belly. And so the thing with this breath is that you can just stay with wherever you're at. We want to stay calm and not get too tense or uptight about working with our breath, or that will kind of defeat the purpose. So if this is all you do today, that is still really good for you and a lot. So if you're ready to do the second part, then after we'll inhale into the belly, we'll pause, inhale into the chest, pause, and then exhale out of the chest, out of the belly. So if you're a visual person, you can think about filling your tank, your torso, from bottom to top, and then emptying from top to bottom. I like to visualize water being poured into a container, so it's filling the space completely from bottom to top. And then if you were to dump that liquid, then it would do the same thing. It would dump from top to bottom. And for me, that exhale is always the hardest part. So just notice if you're having any resistance, it's totally normal. And again, just like the first part, you can stay here, or if you'd like to go for the full 3-part breath, it's the same thing basically. We're going to inhale into the belly, pause, into the chest, pause, and then top it off at your collarbone. Maybe even take the breath all the way to the crown of your head. And then exhale out, top, all the way down through the belly, pushing out with those abdominal muscles, all of that air. Working with the breath here, bottom to top, top to bottom. And if you are using a bolster, now is a good time to pick up your head as you inhale and then turn your head the other direction. Notice if this has changed the pose for you at all. If you need to adjust anything, go ahead and do so. Otherwise, get comfy. Come back to your breath. And so your breath can be a really good anchoring point for you. In Yin, we hold poses between 3 to 6 minutes. So that's a pretty long time, especially if you're a beginner. That can seem like forever. And so we use the breath as a way to anchor into our body. It's really easy to allow those thoughts to just start going all over the place, and that's okay if they do. It's natural, it's normal, it happens to me every single time. But you can use that breath to then interrupt those thoughts and drop back into your body. So let's stay here in our child's pose for about 3 more breaths, and take them as slow and as long as you can. Noticing the release that's happening in your lower back, the hips opening, space being made in your knees and ankles. When you're done with those breaths, we'll slide the hands underneath our shoulders, press them into the mat to lift the torso up. And you can just inch your bolster forward if you are using it to get it out of the way, and make your way to a tabletop. So in tabletop, we have knees underneath our hips and wrists underneath our shoulders. Spread your hands really wide to protect the wrist. Try to meet the earth with not just where the wrist meets the hand, but where your knuckles are, your fingers really grasping the earth underneath you. And you can have tops of the feet to the mat, or even curl your toes under for some extra balance, maybe even a stretch into the feet. And what we're going to do first is reach back with our right leg, reaching back through the heel, straight leg. You can gently move forward and backward, or you can just hold into this stretch to just release the back of the leg from that last pose. Breathing into this really simple release, and then we'll switch sides whenever you're ready, lowering that right knee and doing it on the left. And then notice your posture here. Notice if you're dipping in the lower back, that's common. Just try to engage really slightly through the lower belly, drawing your tailbone away from your head and lengthening through the crown of the head. Breathing into that nice long spine as you release the back of your left leg. And then bringing that left knee back underneath, finding that tabletop pose. And we're going to take a couple of those cat-cows that we did seated now in our tabletop. So as you inhale, allow your tailbone to lift, your chest to drop, and maybe your gaze lifts. As you exhale, round into the spine, pressing into the mat, looking between your thighs. Inhaling, arching the front of the body. Exhaling and rounding. And if you're pregnant, you want to do this really gently. You don't want to overstretch your ligaments that are extra stretchy right now. So just moving in a way that feels good. You don't have to go to your edge. You don't have to do it as far as you can. Just finding movement into the spine that feels really nice and connecting it to your breath. Let's do one more together. If you haven't yet, close your eyes. Feel the spine rebalancing. And then to get ready for our next pose, move that bolster to make sure there's room on the front of your mat. And we're going to walk our knees to the center so that they're touching. Draw your right knee out to the side. We call this fire hydrant pose. You can imagine why. And then we're going to draw some circles with our knee, our right knee. Moving with your breath here. And then when you're ready, reverse those circles the opposite way. Try to keep your weight balanced into your hands here. That's always the hardest part for me. Moving with your breath. Okay, and then from here, we're going to take our right foot and bring it forward to the front of our mat. So if you're pregnant, come around to the outside. And you are going to want to walk that right foot towards the right side of your mat anyways, and bring both of your hands into the inside of that right foot. So we're coming into lizard pose. From here, allow your hips to drop. Notice if you need more support. So if this is feeling like a lot and it's too much, oops, wrong block. Go ahead and grab a block and you can press your hands into that block and it'll bring the floor closer to you. So maybe your spine feels a lot better here. And the block has 3 different levels, so you can come to level 1, 2, or 3. 3 might be a little not so stable. So that's one of the options. You can use the block. You can also use your bolster. Same thing as child's pose, you'll nuzzle it in close. You can come to your forearms here if you're needing more from the pose. If you're really flexy, you can probably go all the way down. But again, just listening to your body, seeing what feels best today. Your practice and your body changes every day in response to our lives and what's going on inside of the body. So feel free to listen. Try not to get too habitual in your practice. Allow it to be organic. Once you find your lizard pose, lengthen through the spine as much as you can, and then come back to that 3-part breath. Having a drishti point, that focal point we talked about earlier, can be really helpful as well. And you can experiment with what feels best to you. Sometimes it does feel good to lift the chin and really open the front of the neck. Sometimes it feels better to lengthen through the crown of your head, tucking your chin slightly in. So just experimenting, you know your body best. Breathing into your lizard pose and noticing what part of your hip is opening here. Which side do you feel activated? What are some other subtle feelings that you can tune into? Can we press into the right foot anymore? Can we hug the right knee towards the right shoulder? And if you'd like to stay in this stillness, you can do that. Otherwise, we're going to find some movement. So some other variations you can try are coming onto the outside of that right foot, letting the knee now go away from the shoulder. You'll notice a totally different part of your body opening up here. Or you can press back into that right foot. Take a big inhale. Then as you exhale, press into the right foot as it goes towards straight and take those hips back. You can even lift into the right foot, flexing it, and you'll be getting into the hamstring. So as you inhale, bring your weight back into the right foot, lift the heart. As you exhale, take your hips back, reaching through your right hammies. And moving gently, moving softly. Just like that visualization of water, really allowing your movement to become like water. So each movement really flows into the next, being inspired by the elements. Let's go ahead and do one more of those. From here, we're going to come into Pigeon, and so you're going to want to move that block out of the way. Walk the foot through center, and then keep walking it over to the left side, and you're going to lay this right shin down. Now, it doesn't need to be parallel with the front of your mat. That would be if you're really flexible. You can hug that right foot in all the way if you want. Try to flex into the right foot to protect your knee, and then extend that left leg all the way back, top of the foot to the mat, and make sure that leg is just going straight back. Sometimes it does want to sickle in or out. And then some prop options here. I think the most comfy is probably the bolster, so you can nuzzle that in. Maybe you just come to your forearms. Maybe you allow yourself to come all the way down. Depending on your flexibility and where you want to feel the pose. Some people like to even keep pressing into their hands, and you'll feel a really nice opening in the front of your left hip. So finding whichever variation works best for you. Coming to your breath. Filling your pose, your asana with your breath. And like we talked about at the beginning of practice, you might be feeling some emotions. You might be feeling a wave of emotions. You might be re-experiencing a memory that is releasing. Whatever we experience, we tend to store in our bodies. So yoga is an opportunity to let those memories, the trauma, the pain, even when we have exciting things happen, we can build a lot of tension. So just giving yourself the space and the time to release and to empty. Quieter moments of class, taking a moment to notice if your thoughts keep wandering off. Maybe instead of, judging yourself and getting really worked up about that your mind is wandering, maybe instead begin to notice if there's a certain pattern to your thoughts. Is there a repetitive nature to any of the thoughts? If and when you become ready to interrupt them, you know exactly how to do that with your breath. Oh, and I almost totally forgot to mention, if your hip is really tight here, you can grab that blanket and you can put it underneath your right sit bone. Right underneath that right booty cheek, and that will take a lot of the tension off. Kind of late for this side, but now you know. You can try it on the other side. All right. Let's take one more deep breath into Pigeon. When you're ready, slowly begin to make your way out of it, pressing into the hands. I usually like to take one nice deep breath in the upright version. And then you'll want to, again, just nudge that bolster forward and out of the way if you are using it. This is a really fun transition. So what you're going to do is kind of roll onto your right booty cheek, pick up your left leg, and bring it all the way across your knee. That might take a couple tries, that's okay. It's kind of fun. And we're going to come into a seated twist. So you want both sit bones to be able to ground. For me, that means physically inching out this right foot until there's room for both of my hips. So that might be helpful to you. Again, you can use blankets to help both of those sit bones root. And then if you can, try to press as much of this left foot into the ground as you can. And because this is a prenatal friendly class, we're going to do an open twist. So we're going to take the left arm over this left knee. You can come just across the knee. You can come to the ankle or even the foot if you have the flexibility. And then these right fingertips, you're going to bring behind you just to help you sit up nice and tall. Find your breath. Maybe allow your gaze to come over that right shoulder. Breathing into a nice tall spine here. Good, one more big inhale. And then as we exhale, we'll slowly unwind from that twist. We're coming into our final hip opener on this side. So we're coming into shoelace pose or cow face pose. So what you need to do here, again, is root both sit bones. So you might need to inch that right foot away from the body. And then we're going to try to lay that left foot down now on the outside of the foot. A lot of teachers will tell you to stack your knees, but for a lot of us that's just not possible. Anatomically, you don't need to feel bad about it. So just as close as you can get to releasing that top leg. You want it to feel like it's relaxing now and not upright against your chest. If this is too much and it's not even going to happen today, that's okay. There's another variation you can try. You can lengthen out the right leg straight, flex strong into the foot, and instead just cross the left leg over. So you can try that, see if that works better for you. And then here, once you find the pose, allow both of those sit bones to root, lengthen into the spine, and we're going to bring our hands to our feet. You can either just close your eyes and allow that connection to deepen. The feet are where we ground into the earth, and our palms are kind of like our feelers, right? Where we connect to other people, to a lot of our activities. So connecting these two sources can be really transformative. And if you'd like, you can also start to massage into your feet. If you are pregnant, I encourage you to do this really gently because there are some reflexology points that can trigger labor. But from what I've heard, I'm not a doctor, obviously, your body would need to be ready to go into labor. So don't stress. If you want to skip it, feel free to skip it. I really love to massage my feet. I think it feels so good, especially if you've had a really long day on your feet, going into the arch and just releasing that tension. It's just another way of sending love and care to your body. So doing that as long as you would like here. Feeling those hips open. Making space. All right, let's take one more deep breath into our cow face pose. I get a lot of questions as to why it's called that, and I think your feet are the ears. If you wiggle your toes, it's like wiggling a cow's ears, and then this is the face, the knees. It's hard because I'm not facing the camera, but you can imagine it. All right, and then to come out of this, we're going to bring our arms behind us, uncross those legs, and just shake it out. Let yourself release in whatever way feels good. Maybe it's tapping the legs. I love to teach love pats, so it's making fists and keeping your wrists really loose and then tapping the body with those knuckles that you've made into your fist and sending love in that way. So it's really good to find those areas that have a hard time getting circulation and using the love pats to increase the circulation to those areas. And it's another self-massage. So nice. And do that as long as you feel you need to. And then we're going to come back to our tabletop pose. And we have the other side to do. So make your way there when you're ready. And then this time, we're going to add on a little pelvic floor movement to our cat-cow. So you can start by inhaling into your cow stretch and exhaling back to your cat. Pelvic floor exercises are really good for everyone, but especially for women, especially if you're pregnant. So we're going to do that today. So as you inhale, release any tension in the lower pelvis. Then as you exhale, engage through the pelvis, through your Kegel floor muscles. As you exhale, lift through the pelvic floor. So the same muscles that you use to stop a flow of urine, those are the muscles you're engaging. And in yoga, we call this the Mula Bandha. So as you inhale, release, feel it all soften and relax. As you exhale, lift through the pelvic floor. It's a really tiny movement. It's not very easy to visualize or to see, but you'll feel it. And if you ever need to practice this, you can try it on the toilet. That's when you know you're doing it. Exhaling, engaging. It's So just working with those floor muscles, slowly getting them stronger. There's a lot of research out there that proves this can be really helpful with labor. And this is a good way to just add it to your practice if you already have a yoga practice going. Let's do one more. Good. And then we'll come back to bringing the knees to center. Drawing circles now into the left knee. Oiling up that left hip before we get too deep into it. Moving with the breath, going both directions. Trying to keep the weight grounded into both of those hands. And then when you're ready, take a big inhale and take that left foot towards the front of your mat, onto the outside, the left side of the mat. Lower those hips. We're coming back into lizard pose. And just being mindful, your body's going to hold a lot of tension on one side versus the other. So you might need a totally different variation for each pose, for each side. So experiment with all of your options, your block, your bolster. If you're not using props, you can still move the hands around. You can lower to the forearms. And then find your breath. Feeling the way you're rooting through both palms or both forearms, rooting into that left foot, hugging the left knee towards your shoulder. Same thing as the other side. If you want to experiment by opening up the left leg now, coming out to the outside of the left foot, you totally can. Breathing into that change. And then if you'd like to add some movement, pressing back into that left foot, taking a big inhale. As you exhale, press into the hands, take the hips back, go towards straight. It doesn't have to go all the way straight. Lift into the left foot. Inhale takes you forward. Exhale takes you back. Moving with your own breath, your own pace. Good. Next inhale, we'll press into the left foot again. Straddle the foot with both hands, so walking it towards the center. Keep walking it over towards the right. We're coming into Pigeon now on the left side. Lengthen that right leg back, straight back. You can even turn around and check it and then decide which variation you'd like. There's the upright. You can come down to your bolster. Come down to the floor with your forearms. And whatever variation you choose, you want to be sure that you can enjoy the posture while you're here. It shouldn't feel like you're challenging yourself so hard that you're having a hard time even starting in the posture. There's so many options. There's bound to be one that works for you, and if not, you can try something else. And before I forget on this side, if your left hip is feeling really tight, grab that blanket. You can fold it as thick as you need it, even into a mini bolster, and put it underneath the left hip. So that's a little too thick for me, but something like that can help you feel like you're not stretching the hip as quickly, as extreme, more of a gentle stretch. If you did apply some essential oils to your hands at the beginning of practice, maybe you can breathe in that scent here as the face gets closer to the palms. intentionally of whatever we've held on our left side, the right side, anywhere you feel that pull. Giving yourself permission to let it go. And if you're not quite ready to let it go fully, another way to think about it is just to put it down for a while. Maybe you'll just put it down for this class. Give yourself an hour without it. Let's take one more breath into our pigeon pose. Slowly press into the hands. Maybe you take another breath in the upright version. And then we're transitioning into that seated twist. So sitting on your left sit bone, rotating that right leg up as you reach and grab your right leg, give it some help. Cross it over the left, like kind of a mental exercise too. And then find yourself getting comfortable for your seated twist. So grounding both of those sit bones, pressing into the right foot as much as you can. When you're ready, we're coming into that open twist. So right arm comes across just to where it's comfortable. Left hand comes behind you. Maybe you take your gaze over that left shoulder. Every inhale, you can think about your heart lifting. And every exhale, the twist settles in. Twists are really good for detoxing, good for our digestive system. And good for our spine, oiling up each vertebrae. Let's take one more inhale when you're ready. And then exhale, slowly unwind from that twist. Coming into cow face pose. So again, you always have the option to lengthen out the left leg and just simply cross the right leg over, coming onto that outside of the right foot. Or you can go for the full expression as long as it's comfortable for you. Root down. Maybe we start with connecting with the feet again. And then if you'd like here, we're gonna release into the neck. So you can start with some gentle neck rolls and really tuning into what your body needs here. Maybe your neck rolls are just side to side. Maybe you don't throw the neck back at all, and maybe you do. Maybe that feels good to you. Now in these neck rolls, if you find a side that really feels tight and wants to release, allow yourself to pause there and breathe into that stretch. We tend to hold a lot of our stress and tension in our neck. So taking a moment to let go of that as well. Noticing your posture here, trying to keep it nice and tall. And just isolate into those neck muscles. And if you have paused into one side of the neck, taking a moment then to go to the other side. Noticing if that tension feels any different on this side. Maybe there's more of it or just a different type, different sensation. Next inhale, we'll make our head come back to center. Reach behind you, uncross those legs, and again, release. Shake it out, tap it out, love pat it out, whatever suits you. I always think of a really funny memory when I was teaching this in a class. And And one of my students at the time found that he could do this on his lower back and was like, oh, I feel so good in the middle of class. It was so funny. But it's true, we gotta find that sweet spot. And then we're gonna do our last hip opener pose for class. So this one's called resting butterfly. You're gonna open up your knees, bring the soles of your feet together, and notice that my butterfly, the feet are really far from my pelvis. So you don't want them too close, like a traditional butterfly, they'd be really close in. This one, we're gonna lengthen them really far away, so much in fact that when you look down, you wanna see a diamond shape. So depending on how long your legs are, will be the distance. And then we're gonna take the flesh from underneath our booty, move it back and out of the way. And then it's up to you again if you're gonna use props. If you are, the bolster is a nice thing to nuzzle in here. You can even add a block on the opposite end if you feel like you need more than just the bolster. And we're gonna be folding forward. So whether you use props or not, let's start with a big inhale, lengthening the spine. And then as you exhale, begin to round. And notice for you if rounding doesn't feel good. If there's something in your spine that's saying, nope, not today, then allow yourself to keep that spine really lengthened. That's totally fine. I still feel a really intense stretch into my hips, so you still can do the pose without rounding. It's just up to you really what you want to do with your pose. Whatever variation you've chosen, soften into it. I like to scan the body from head to toe and see where am I holding myself, where am I holding tension. Sometimes we do that as a defense mechanism to just hold on to that last bit of whatever we're holding on to. So wherever you're holding any tension today, it could be in your face, maybe that space between the brows is furrowed, allow that to soften. Maybe the jaw, it's a common place to hold a lot of tension. Feel your jaw soften, the shoulders, the heart. As much softening as you can allow in this pose, go ahead and do that. And then just return to that 3-part breath. Every single exhale is an opportunity to fully surrender. Surrender to the pose, to the process. Sometimes we don't even know what we're letting go of, but we know that we feel better after. On your next inhale, allow the head to lift. Slowly walk those hands back towards your body. And before we make it out of this pose, we'll add a little gentle movement. So bring your hands to your kneecaps here. As you inhale, allow the heart to come forward as you extend through the torso. And then exhale, round into the spine, rounding all the way up. We call these snake rolls. So you're finding a movement that works for you as you inhale and as you exhale. Again, using that quality of water. Let's do one more. And then we'll bring the feet back to the mat, shake it out. You might need to release. And we're gonna get set up for our final relaxation. If you aren't pregnant, feel free to just take it flat on your back with your feet out, arms beside you. And if you are, you're gonna wanna use some props. So you'll bring your block behind you and your bolster. If you want to use this blanket that was underneath you as some extra padding, that can be a good idea. And go ahead and place that bolster on top of your block so you have a little incline. And feel free to add more if you have more. You can always do like a pillow with another blanket. These are all just options, obviously. They just recommend once you're in your second trimester not to be flat on your back. But listen to your body, you know it best. And let's get comfortable. So So if you are coming onto the bolster, make sure it's centered before you come down. Bend at the elbows, tuck your chin in and round onto the bolster. It should feel really good. So if it doesn't, make some adjustments. You can adjust the height of the block. You can adjust a pillow underneath your neck. And then the legs are up to you. You can lengthen them straight out. You can open up the feet wide and then lean the knees on each other. That's been a favorite one of mine lately. Or you can even do the soles of the feet together, knees wide, like where we just were, to keep getting into those inner thighs. So choosing whichever variation is most comfy, especially in final relaxation, you want to be totally comfortable so that you can focus on just being, literally just being. Choosing whichever option suits you best today. If you haven't yet, allow those eyes to close. And then what you want to do now is from the crown of your head all the way down to your toes, feel the body completely letting go. So if you're flat on your back or on the bolster, really just feeling where the body is being held and surrendering into that. Feeling the effects of gravity. A lot of times I think gravity is talked about in a really negative way, but always in this pose we can think about how actually helpful it is. We'd all just be floating around. So using gravity to ground us into the earth. Feeling the way that the bolster or the mat, the ground beneath us and the earth beneath that is supporting every crevice, every curve. Every single part of our body is totally held. Using those conscious exhales to fully surrender to being held. It's a lot like emotional support too. We have to let others do it for them to do it. So let yourself be held. Fully surrender into the earth. And before you sink all the way into your Savasana today, I have a poem to read to you. I think I ripped my shirt a little. That's okay. This poem is from Yoga Heart, Lines on the Six Perfections. It's by Lisa Lowitz. Really beautiful poems. They're all about the body and yoga, meditation. So the one I thought I would share with you guys today is called Santosha. Praise to my hands for bringing food to my mouth. Praise to my mouth, my stomach, my spleen. Praise to the farmer, the soil, the seeds, the vegetables, the rain. Praise to the truckers, the packers, the shippers, the sellers. Praise to the cook. Praise to the potter, the dishwasher, and praise to my feet. Praise to this body, a chariot wending its way along the path. Praise to the steps. Praise to the passenger. Praise to all who came before us, guiding the way. Praise to our teachers, our mothers, our fathers, those who gave birth to us, raised us up. Praise to the city. Praise to the path. Praise to the water, praise to the earth and the sky. Praise to the song, praise to small things each day. Invisible things, recognized, honored, celebrated, become enormous. Santosha, contentment. Praise to waking up to this. Enjoy your Savasana. are ready to come out of your Savasana, you can start to invite some small movements into the fingers and the toes. If you felt like this wasn't quite long enough, feel free to pause the video and take as long of a Savasana that you can, as long as time allows. But if you are ready, just feeling that life trickle back into the body, taking a nice deep breath, becoming reacquainted with that. Maybe you take a big stretch overhead, like you're just waking up in the morning. And then when you're ready, rolling on to whichever side you'd like to roll onto today. And curling up in that fetal position. Taking a moment to really find some comfort and nourishment here. Where the body is naturally at its safest. And as you're curling up and feeling held and cradled by the earth, just thank your body. Thank your body for what it did, not only in our session today, but what it does for us every single day. The small things, the big things, the things that happen without our intention or awareness at all. When you're ready to close practice out, we'll make our way to a comfortable seated position. Doesn't have to be cross-legged, whatever is speaking to you now, just get comfy and tune back in. So compare this seat to the first seat you found at the beginning of class. Compare the body, compare the mind and the spirit. Just take a moment to notice any changes, any shifts. Try not to have expectations. Once again, try not to label anything as good or bad. Sometimes if you released a lot, you can feel really tired. You can feel exhausted. And that's okay. Just being really aware of how you actually feel right now. And then we'll close out class with one Om. You can join in whenever you feel comfortable and ready. Go ahead and let out all that air. Take a nice big inhale. And taking the hands to your heart, bowing the head towards the fingertips. And taking another moment to really thank yourself. Thank yourself for showing up today, carving out the time and the space needed to tune into whatever you needed today. It's not always easy, and I really want to thank you as well. I appreciate you showing up and doing this yin flow with us. The light in me sees and honors the light in you. Namaste. Thank you guys.